Yeah, yeah, man. Oh, hey, oh, gotcha. Hey, guys.
Bring that upbeat vibe with new Sparked Energy by Dunkin'. Turn the fun up to 11 with a Peach Sunshine, Berry Burst, or Tornado Twist Sparked Energy. A revitalizing burst of caffeine, vitamins, and minerals. A medium Sparked Energy is $3 only in the Dunkin' app. Now through July 31st. Drop by and get sparked by Dunkin'. Sparked Energy drinks are fruit flavored, contain 0% fruit juice. Beverages contain caffeine from caffeine and guarana. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Terms apply.
Thank you.
When you use Bounce dryer sheets and your clothes look amazing, it's the sheet. Less static in your life? Yeah, it's the sheet. Smelling fresher than ever? It's the sheet.
You can find what works best for you. Get started with a free 100% online visit at hims.com/grow. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
Yo, this shit really crazy. It's like come from the gutter, no matter where you got that stuck in the mentality of survival. You heard like that's a dog eat dog world. I had that sauce about survival. At the end of the day, you feel me? Like you gotta make the best of it. Niggas trying to kill you, rob you, take advantage of you, all type of shit. So I still with my stick. My homie, they keep on spinning. Somebody tell me if had when we started, then why we still at the beginning. Dream it was free you, screaming free you, till they free you. Know we need you, and I still see you. Know these bitch niggas mad, they can't be you. I know the hood gon' relate to this shit, cause we started from nothing, we come from the gutter. Snakes in the grass, I put on that mask like the devil, and a bitch in my head like we brothers. Who's our mentality, make it through life's little tragedy. No nigga handing me shit. Get my rich, get me lit, we gon' get hit. That's why I stay on the stick. Cause I know that these fun niggas screaming. I just need them to give me a reason. Now I live up and so I keep dreaming. That's why I stay on the stick. I don't feel for the boy who passing me. If he wanna get done, no testing me, won't get the best of me. That's why I stay on the stick. Cause I know that these fun niggas creeping. I just need them to give me a reason. Not only for the smile, I stay on the stick. I don't feel for the boy who passing me. If he wanna get done, no testing me, won't get the best of me. That's why I stay on the stick. Yeah. Sorry, you know I look up to you. If you say that it's stuck, then it's stuck with you. Then my line up of fuck niggas busted you, shit get spooky. I turn this life to a movie. Deep water head first, sharks looking, they waiting to slaughter your blood like a Tusi. I know these odd niggas hating, they mad that we all on the way up. I know some demons who gon' keep on sinning, I tell them to pray up. My niggas strong, gon' get you a bucket, ain't talking to lay up. Wait till I'm rich, we gon' be lit, we gon' get hit. That's why I stay on the stick.
Right.
Cause I know that these fun niggas creeping. I just need them to give me a reason. Now I live up and so I keep dreaming. That's why I stay on the stick. I don't feel for the boy who passing me. If he wanna get done, no testing me, won't get the best of me. That's why I stay on the stick. Cause I know that these fun niggas creeping. I just need them to give me a reason. Now I live up and so I stay on the stick. I don't feel for the boy who passing me. If he wanna get done, no testing me, won't get the best of me. That's why I stay on the stick. Never said it best, so I keep that bitch on me. They killing the artist. She's undefeated, he running his mouth like a goofy. Ironic, they killed him in Target. Me signing Joe like the 3 Musketeers, so you better not clap it. I strap it, let's fuck all them bitches who laugh at us. Clap it up, but when we blow, you gon' pass it a goofy. All I gon' do like a movie, can't be caught up with no groupie. He's when I move like the ox, yo, with the sheets and we moody. I've been so cold for the longest, my heart start to feel like a smoothie. West on rich, please don't be lit, when I get hit. That's why I stay with stick. It's still free trail, bitch. Fuck anybody who said otherwise. Yo, side, wait till we leave this in the past. You feel me? Stay 10 toes till we keep really too much more I can say, man. If I can say it, watch game. Still at the top. I feel like the best out of my city. I feel like the best out of my city.
It's not illustrated.
Hey, look, I feel like the best out of my city. Test me in this party like a candle, it get litty. I come from a place where niggas killin', show no pity. Cuzzo said them niggas ain't 100, give them 50, told them chill out. Don't care if niggas hate me cause I'm winning. I look up to God and ask him why I keep on sinning. Y'all know how I rock, know I've been real since the beginning. Tired of you niggas that be frontin', I've been trying to fish the real out. I feel like the best out of my city, no contesting it. Ain't no place for pussies, you get right or you get
Hey,
Yo, 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 yo.
yo.
What's up, Jay?
Good, good.
Are you streaming right now?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
I'm streaming on Twitch right now. And YouTube tonight. I'm going to go on Twitch.
You're doing cake tonight?
Yeah.
I got you. I'm watching the stream right now. What are you about to do? You about to play something or what?
Yeah.
What you about to hop on?
Tuesday, I'm trying to get a partner on Twitch. I'm trying to get a partner on Twitch.
Twitch? Did you get it?
No, I'm trying to get a partner on here.
Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second.
Hold on, be right back.
But I'm gon' last in the shit. And this for all you niggas that was last snakes, I'm from the garden. When we play with rockets off the court like we was Harden. Hey, look, I look out for snakes, I'm from the garden. When we play with rockets off the court like we was Harden. Hey, look, I feel like the best out of my city. Test me in this party like a candle, it get litty. I come from a place where niggas killin', show no pity. Cuzzo said them niggas ain't 100, give them 50, told them chill out. Don't care if niggas hate me cause I'm winning. I look up to God and ask him why I keep on sinning. Y'all know how I rock, know I've been real since the beginning. Tired of you niggas that be frontin', I've been trying to fish the real out. Yeah.
Step up your runs with the Peloton Tread or Tread Plus 30-day home trial. Whether you're prepping for a marathon or improving your pace, whatever road lies ahead, your training begins here.
Tom Malivers here. Welcome to your 20-minute Strength for Runners class. Y'all, I'm so excited that you're here
Like
today.
that.
Tap into expert coaching and real-time metrics that take your fitness journey to new heights. From strength classes for runners on the Peloton Tread or Tread Plus to guided outdoor runs on the Peloton app. Try it all. No commitment needed. Call yourself a runner. Learn more at onepeloton.com/home-trial. Terms apply.
Have a question or need how-to advice? Just ask Meta AI. Whether you need to summarize your class notes or want to create a recipe with the ingredients you already have in your fridge, Meta AI has the answers. You can also research topics, explore interests, and so much more. It's the most advanced AI at your fingertips. Expand your world with Meta AI. Now on Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, and Messenger.
Welcome to Nada Yada Island.
This season on Nada Yada Island.
When we were new, they spoiled me. They even gave me a phone. But then, it's like I didn't exist.
Don't take yada yada from your wireless carrier. Now with Metro, get that new customer feeling again and again. Introducing Metro Flex. Free 5G phones when you join, same deals as new customers when you stay. Only at Metro by T-Mobile. Just bring your number and ID and sign up for an eligible plan. After 12 months, trade in and get our best deals on select devices.
Somebody tell me if had what we started, then why we still at the beginning. Drill know it's free you, screaming free you, till they free you. Know we need you when I still see you. Know these bitch niggas mad they can't be you. I know the hood gon' relate to this shit cause we started from nothing, we come from the gutter. Snakes in the grass, I put on that mask like the devil, then reach for my hand like we brothers. Boost our mentality, make it through actual tragedy. No nigga handing me shit. Cash my rich, we gon' be lit. When I get hit, that's why I stay with the stick. Cause I know that these fun niggas creeping. I just need him to give me a reason. And I gon' lift up his soul like he dreaming. That's why I stay with the stick. I don't beef with a boy, you pester me. If he run and get done, no testing me, won't get the best of me. That's why I stay with a stick. Cause I know that these fun niggas creeping. I just need him to give me a reason. And I gon' lift up his soul like he dreaming. I don't beef with a boy, you pester me. If he run and get done, no testing me, won't get the best of me. That's why I stay with a stick. Yeah. Sorry, you know I look up to you. If you say that it's stuck, then it's stuck with you. Hit my line up through fuck niggas busted you, shit can get spooky. I turn his life to a movie. Deep water head first, sharks looking, they waiting to slaughter your blood like you Tootsie. I know these op niggas hating, they mad that we all in the way up. I know some demons who gon' keep on sinning, I tell them to pray up. My niggas scoring, gon' get you a bucket, ain't talking to layup. West till I'm rich, we gon' be lit, we gon' get hit. That's why I stay on the stick. Cause I know that these fun niggas creeping. I just need him to give me a reason. And I gon' lift up his soul like he dreaming. That's why I stay with a stick. I don't beef with a boy, you pester me. If he run up, get done, no testing me, won't get the best of me. That's why I stay with a stick. Cause I know that these fun niggas creeping. I just need him to give me a reason. And I gon' lift up his soul like he dreaming. I don't beef with a boy, you pester me. If he run up, get done, no testing me, won't get the best of told me they killing the artist. Streets undefeated, he running his mouth like a goofy. Ironic, they killed him in Target. Me silent drill like the 3 Musketeers, so you better not clap it. I strap it, let's fuck all them bitches who laughed at us. Clap it up, but when we blow, you gon' gas it up goofy. My life gon' be like a movie, can't be caught up with no groupie. Please do not move like an ox, we all with the sheets and we moody. I've been so cold for the longest, my heart start to feel like a smoothie. Waistline rich, we gon' be lit, run up, get hit. That's why I stay with the stick.
Still free drill, bitch. Fuck anybody who say otherwise, you heard? Yo, side, wait till we up, we leave this shit in the past, you feel me? Just stay 10 toes till we eat, you heard? Ain't too much more I can say, man. We rock since the sandbox, gang. See you at the top.
Yeah, I'm taking all my feelings to the grave. I admit it, to this money, I'm a slave. To my young niggas coming up, yeah, we the way. Yeah. For my city, I'm the one who they believe. For my niggas that fell victim to police. For my family trying to make it out the streets. Yeah. First time we met when we was young, I said my niggas solid. The shit you asked for, I go get it, cause you know I got it. But then that time passed and I could see the distance. On the decline fast, but you just wouldn't listen. No people grow apart, but it ain't had to be this way. You had a choice between me and them, and you want me to stay. Ain't no hard feelings, no I love you, it won't ever stop. You burn these bridges, don't expect me just to send a yacht. Trust a snake before these niggas, they gon' bite to start. These niggas fake like they your friends so they can knife your heart. Thought it would last, but I could see now we've been miles apart. Yeah, we've been miles apart. Yeah, I'm taking all my feelings to the grave. I admit it, to this money, I'm a slave. To my young niggas coming up, yeah, we the way. Yeah. For my city, I'm the one who they believe. For my niggas that fell victim to police. For my family trying to make it out the streets. Yeah. Cross for my main man, guessing like it's hangman. Friends that will lie to me, this shit drive me insane, man. Can't catch me up in traffic, cause I stay in my own lane, man. My niggas say it's precedent, I turn it to the rain, man. So much weight up on my shoulders, got me crying now. Only few real niggas left, we just been dying now. No one to talk to about this pain, so I just cried out. Get so much love, I feel like my heart just been drying out. Yeah, that's why I stay all by my lonely. Yeah, so don't act like you still know me. Yeah, that's why I stay all by my lonely. So don't act like you still know me. Yeah, I'm taking all my feelings to the grave. I admit it, to this money, I'm a slave. To my young niggas coming up, yeah, we the way. Yeah. For my city, I'm the one who they believe. For my niggas that fell victim to police. For my family trying to make it out the streets. Yeah. I've been thinking through my mind all day, baby girl. When I'm down and you Hey, look. I've been thinking through my mind all day. When I'm down, is you there when I need you? And I've been thinking through my mind all day, baby girl. If tonight I can see you.
Hello? Oh, hey. What's up? I forgot. What's up, man?
About to get ready to go.
Huh?
About to go get a haircut.
Uh, I
What's up?
just,
You good?
I just live on Twitch.
Huh?
I just live on Twitch.
Oh, you on Twitch right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I trying to hit the partnership thing on it.
Oh, okay.
How are you? The
I'm cool.
Yeah.
Told you about to getting ready to leave out, about to go get a haircut real fast. You alright though?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit you up later. I'll hit you up later and shit. I'm about to
Okay.
I'm about to leave out.
Alright.
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 Hey Jake, I got $81 in my stake, but can't transfer. JT0. Hey Jake, I got $81 in my stake, but can't transfer it. Do you have Coinbase? Wave to JT.
She pushing all up on me, I ain't know what she expecting me. Thoughts running through my head like I see drop her clothes so sexily. Know the shit is scam, she ain't for real, she gon' try snaking me. Hate to be my shorty or to see what you could take from me. Know these bitches bees, I let them close, they gon' try stinging me. Just like I'm missing calls, I know my niggas let it ring for me. No, I ain't for none, I get a Drake and let it sing for me. Niggas tryna play me, I ain't going, that's the king in me. Back up, baby, know this money ain't a thing to me, we racked up. Niggas saying last, they getting mad cause they can't pass us. Baby, let me know if you gon' bust it, let it blow. If I'm jammed up, them niggas wanna take my spot. If not, just keep it real, I know the deal. Just let me pop you like a pill. You don't want shit, just tryna fuck up to the top, baby. Yeah, yeah. I've been thinking through my mind all day. When I'm down, is you there when I need you? And I've been thinking through my mind all day, baby girl. If tonight I can't see you. And I've been thinking through my mind all day. If you for real, then I know how to treat you. And I've been thinking through my mind all day. After we done, I could take you home and eat you. Hey, bust down, baby girl, you could roll with us. Just know we up now. But is you someone that I could trust? Baby, don't come round. She thinks she fire, she could get snuffed. It ain't no bluff now. Just play it smooth, but shit could get rough. Hey, I need me a shorty on that bougie shit. Fuck about your ex, about to stay and fuck the crew you with. I've been chasing money, baby girl, no, I ain't new to this. If looks all that you bringing, you a dub, shorty, I'm through with it. How the fuck I knew you ain't come over just to snake me? I noticed you been choosing, know a couple niggas hate me. Is it just the bread you really want, you tryna shake me? I know you money hungry, but this money shouldn't make me. Listen, mommy, you looking good and know I don't say this to anybody. And to be honest, I'm worried that you caught plenty bodies. But you a diamond, most niggas fucking with penny thotties. And I feel bad, so I welcome them to the petty party. like the best out of my city. I feel like the best out of my city. Hey, look, I feel like the best out of my city. Test me in this party like a candle, it get litty. I come from a place where niggas killin', show no pity. Cause I said them niggas ain't 100, give them 50, told them chill out. Don't care if niggas hate me cause I'm winning. I look up to God and that's why I keep on sinning. Y'all know how I rock, no, I've been real since the beginning. Tired of you niggas that be frontin', I've been trying to fish the real out. I feel like the best out of my city, no contesting it. Ain't no place for pussies, you get right or you get left with it. Got no time for niggas tryna talk my head to deficit. Got no time for beef, on smoke and put his ass to rest and shit. I watch out for snakes, I'm from the garden. Where we play with rockets off the cool, but we ain't hardened. Hey, look, please just let me be, don't get me started. Nike, I just do it with this rap shit, I'm the hardest. Hey, look, I feel like a champion, not a lot can handle this. Any nigga playing like he trophy, gon' dismantle him. See just how I'm managing, opposition panicking. Niggas hit my phone, I be too busy, I ain't answering. I done went and really got my bands up. All I see is niggas that be sitting with their hands up. Hey, look, I done went and really got my bands up. All I see is niggas that be sitting with their hands up. Hey, look, cause I feel like the best out of my city. Test me in this party like a candle, it get litty. I come from a place where niggas killin', show no pity. Cause I said them niggas ain't 100, give them 50, told them chill out. Don't care if niggas hate me cause I'm winning. I look up to God and that's why I keep on sinning. Y'all know how I rock, no, I've been real since the beginning. Tired of you niggas that be frontin', I've been trying to fish the real out. Niggas tryna beat the side of jealousy, probably cause they know that they ain't never getting next to me. Ay, just know you gon' fail, you get to testing me. Only hit my phone if it's about the bread especially. Ay, look, I've been tryna take off on these niggas, ain't no catching up. Cause I'm said his beat to hit his phone, cause he gon' wet him up. I come from the bottom of the barrel, now I'm stepping up. Took my time to plan out all my moves, now watch me level up. I done swear I made my own path with this shit. You niggas wanna bug, but I'm gon' last in this shit. And this for all you niggas that was laughing and shit. When I said it, I'ma treat it like my passion and shit. Look, I look out for snakes, I'm from the garden. When we play with rockets off the court like we was hardened. Ay, look, I look out for snakes, I'm from the garden. When we play with rockets off the court like we was hardened. Ay, look, I feel like the best out of my city. Test me in this party like a candle, it get litty. I come from a place where niggas killin', show no pity. Cause I said them niggas ain't 100, give them 50, told them chill out. Don't care if niggas hate me cause I'm winning. I look up to God and that's why I keep on sinning. Y'all know how I rock, no, I've been real since the beginning. Tired of you niggas that be frontin', I've been trying to fish the real out. Yeah.
Ready, set, run your way. Whether you're prepping for a marathon or improving your pace, whatever road lies ahead, your training begins here. From strength classes for runners on the Peloton Tread or Tread Plus to guided outdoor runs on the Peloton app.
Tom Malibris here. Welcome to your 20-minute Strength for Runners class. Y'all, I'm so excited that you're here today.
Tap into expert coaching and real-time metrics that take your fitness journey to new heights. Call yourself a runner. Learn more at onepeloton.com/running. Terms apply.
Have a question or need how-to advice? Just ask Meta AI. Whether you want to design a marathon training program or you're curious what planets are visible in tonight's sky, Meta AI has the answers. It can also summarize your class notes, visualize your ideas, and so much more. It's the most advanced AI at your fingertips. Expand your world with Meta AI. Now on Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, and Messenger.
Summer heat got you stuck to your chair? Dunkin' iced coffee is the perfect pick-me-up to get you unstuck and keep your day going. Want to sweeten the deal? Add a little flavor to your morning with a mocha swirl. Or keep it classic. Dunkin' Iced is here to chill your hectic Wednesday. Earn points with Dunkin' Rewards on every purchase of an iced coffee, so you don't break a sweat or break the bank. Order now in store and on the Dunkin' app. New York runs on Dunkin' Iced Coffee.
So if you wrong a nigga, man the fuck up and make it right, cause I've been stepped on by the same niggas I had trust for, pissed on by bitches I had love for. So fuck it, at this point my heart a gat could give a fuck by why I aim it. Let a demon out the box and they ain't know if they could tame it. Shit was different, over there they move with different intentions. On Ratchet stay in the whip but she wore different extensions. My palms steadily sweating, we was itching to get it. Was killing shit without trying to pay the reaper a visit. Cause I'm a real nigga, devil keep on telling me to kill niggas. Most you niggas rats, you just be rolling in the field niggas. Demons with them tools and they been waiting just to drill niggas. All you niggas fruits and I've been waiting just to peel niggas. Gang.
We had to survive, we had to adapt our environment, you feel me? Wasn't no way out, we had to make do with what we had and shit, you know? All we had was each other, wasn't nobody to look after us and take care of us, you feel me? We just had our brother. Shit was crazy.
We was pressing niggas, making little niggas give it up. Little reckless niggas, then my cousin started brimming up. You get heat checked, I hear about the shit that you was saying. Out at recess, smacking niggas thinking I was playing. Little thug niggas, always doing something for fun. A Strax is raising me right now, I'm the son of a gun. And them homies never complained about the life we was living. We just used the hand we was dealt and played them cards we was given. And we ain't never give a fuck by doing wrong or doing right. She was eating niggas, we ain't never think we'd see the light. So we ain't criticize them older niggas trapped and selling white. Cause they was out here trying to live so they can make it through the night. Having street fights, and we ain't give a fuck about them street lights. Them goons don't put that fear in you, this heat might. Shooters get your face swapped, you chatting, they gon' snap, you get your face chopped. Cause niggas getting dropped, it's like a plate hot. Boom!
You know, we made mistakes along the way, you feel me? We ain't never let that stop us from trying to make it out. We definitely lost some niggas, we lost some brothers along the way, you feel me? Dead in jail. At the same time, we knew it wasn't no letting up. We have to get how we live.
But lately I've been creeping with them demons and them reapers, running plays out in the fair while you been sitting in the bleachers, sitting sideline. And I ain't gotta worry about my niggas turning on me cause we stamped and know them guidelines. This was different shit, ain't nothing that I hate more than a hypocrite. Or niggas trying to judge you by mistakes, losing homies leave you aching, talking sweet and then them shooters leave you baking. If you got it and we want it, then we take it, stop complaining. Nowadays we looking back at how our lives was never easy. Now my pride different, talking down on us we doing greasy. OGs always taught me that respect you can't replace it. As a young man you stand up to a problem and you face it. Only guidance that we got, cause our dads wasn't teaching shit. We wasn't trying to beat them niggas doing shit they preach against. We arrogant, get caught and then we have to hear that speech again. But how they only want for us was best to get us each a win, that's it.
That is just the way we. What you mean? We ain't choose this life. It chose us. So we had to make the best of it. That's what come with this shit.
Look, we was look, running through the hood, doing streets, looking up the with them brooms they try to sweep. My mom said, look son, two wrongs to make a right. So if you wrong and man the fuck up and make it right. Cause I've been stepped on by the same I had trust for, pissed on by I had love for. So at this point, my heart a cat could give a about why I aim it. Let a demon out the box and they ain't know if they could tame it. Was different, over there they move with different intentions. Over Ratchet stay in the whip, she wore different extensions. My palms are steadily sweating, we was itching to get it. Was killing without trying to pay the reaper a visit. Cause I'm a real devil keep on telling me to kill. Most rats, you just be rodents in the field. Demons with the tools and they been waiting just to drill. All you fruits and I've been waiting just to peel. Gang.
We had to survive. We had to adapt our environment. You feel me? It wasn't all the way out of it. We had to make do with what we had. You feel me? Of course, you know we lost some brothers along the way.
Collaboration is smoother than ever with Dell. It feels like every other day we see someone throw their entire life's work away because they use their money and power to fulfill their darkest desires. Vince McMahon was the mastermind who bought his father's wrestling promotion and turned it into the multi-billion-dollar company we know today as the WWE. Many of the ideas, characters, storylines, legendary matches, and controversial moments can be credited to Vince's sick and twisted mind. Not only did he run the company, but he was also the most notorious villain who played the character of the psychopath businessman. We would later find out that this was no character. Vince was just as evil off-screen as he was on-screen. Recently, horrifying accusations have come to light regarding Vince's sick ways. Brutal assault, crime cover-ups, and human trafficking are just a few of the many reasons why he has formally stepped down as the CEO of the WWE. Today we are going to look into the unraveling of Vince McMahon's life and career, and show all of the obvious warning signs we missed along the way. The wrestling business operated similarly to gangs in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The United States had defined territories that different wrestling federations controlled. Vince McMahon's father, Vincent, owned the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, which controlled the northeast region of the United States. This was home to stars like Bruno Sammartino. He also had the Mid-Atlantic region, which covered Virginia and the Carolinas, home to Ric Flair, and the world-class wrestling promotion in the South, which was home of the Von Erich brothers. Wrestling had nowhere near the mainstream popularity it does now. There wasn't much money in the business, so each promotion was protective of their territory. You only promoted shows within the territory you controlled. The National Wrestling Alliance was a governing body that protected the territorial integrity of the promotions. They also helped with talent acquisitions, cross-promotions, title matches, etc. Vincent McMahon Sr. was an honest, hard-working man who traveled the country developing relationships with the heads of other promotions. Vince was enamored with the world his dad created, and one day dreamed of taking over the business, but his father didn't like that idea.
Vince lets his father know that he wants to wrestle. His father is adamantly opposed.
Wanted me to have a more secure future, wanted me to be an accountant or an attorney or something like that, and I really wasn't cut out for any of the above.
In 1972, his father finally gave him an opportunity to be a promoter all the way in Bangor, Maine, one of the smallest and most difficult places to generate excitement and revenue. So Vince Jr. came up with the genius idea of taping the matches and shipping those tapes across state lines to get people to start watching wrestling on television. Some people looked at this as undercutting or stealing from other territories, but over the next decade, Vince helped his father bring the business to new heights, bringing in stars like Muhammad Ali and tripling their television ratings in the region. However, the landscape of wrestling would shift dramatically when in 1982 his father was falling deathly ill from cancer. He wanted the WWF to remain a Northeast promotion and control the New York City area, but Vince Jr. had big dreams of becoming a national promotion and establishing a global presence. He bought the company, and shortly after, his father passed away. Now Vince was on a warpath to infiltrate every territory and take their business. But before we dive deeper into Vince's evil plan, it's becoming more difficult to protect yourself online. Scammers are becoming more sophisticated, and it's almost impossible to keep yourself safe. That's why I've part alerts when your information could be started with Andre the Giant. Standing at 7'4" and over 500 pounds, Andre was a sight to behold, and everyone around the world was eager to watch him compete. While working for Vincent, Andre would travel across territory lines and get paid a fee to help draw bigger crowds to smaller promotions. Hulk Hogan was another traveling star who was based out of Florida but would cross territory lines for a fee. But when Vince took over, he put an end to this. Wrestlers signed to the WWF would only be able to wrestle for the shows he controlled, which was basically every state from Pennsylvania to Maine. This business practice is extremely common now, as you never see a football player jump from one game in the NFL to one game in the XFL, or a fighter have one match in the UFC, then a fight in Bellator, then back to UFC. They sign exclusive contracts for a certain number of matches, but back then, Vince's business practices were considered destructive to this industry. He began signing top talent from all territories to exclusive contracts with the WWF. Some of those wrestlers included Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, Rocky Johnson, Roddy Piper, Bret Hart, Mr. T, Randy Savage, Savage, The Ultimate Warrior, Ricky Steamboat, just to name a few. Vince started the Atlantic and Pacific Wrestling Corporation by partnering with Mike LaBelle in Southern California. Then he purchased Mike's shares of the company in 1982, which gave him full control of New York City, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles. To continue his dominance, he used his relationships at War TV to pay $2,500 a week for a Saturday morning time slot on Los Angeles' Channel 9 KHJ-TV. But McMahon didn't expect to make a dime. He saw TV as a promotional expense to boost the gates of live shows. The WWF was being broadcasted nationally on Monday nights on the USA Network, so the whole country was being exposed to the brand. But that wasn't enough for Vince. He began a full-on invasion strategy to take out all his competitors city by city, like when he acquired a local TV station, WAKR-23 out of Akron, Ohio, with reach to Cleveland on January 8, 1983. Then later that year, the WWF debuted on WCPO-9 in Cincinnati, which was an established Georgia Championship Wrestling territory. From there, the WWF entered World Championship Wrestling territory in Dayton, Ohio, purchasing the exclusive rights from WKEF-22 to replace the WCW broadcast with WWF's broadcast. One by one, Vince would enter a city controlled by another promotion, then buy out their TV time slot to air WWF. If he couldn't buy out their TV slot, then he would buy out their top talent, but most of the time, he did both. On an infamous day now known as Black Saturday, July 14, 1984, Vince McMahon appeared on the Saturday time slot on TBS that regularly featured Georgia Championship Wrestling for over a decade. Vince walks on screen after purchasing the company in the time slot to basically flex and say the World Wrestling Federation is now taking over.
It is indeed a pleasure to be associated with WTBS, and we promise to bring you the greatest in professional wrestling entertainment in the world today.
Jim Ross, a legend known for being WWE's commentator in its golden years, said he once overheard several NWA promoters considering getting McMahon killed while in the stall of a public bathroom.
In those days, it was like when you, from their standpoint, invaded their territory. It was like, well, okay, them is not just fighting words. It's like there's so many times when people threatened me, and it was like the last guy said, "Like, you better get, if you want to take credit for it, you better get me quick."
Now, it can't be confirmed if this was a serious consideration or tongue-in-cheek, but it can't be denied how much men like Jim Crockett, Bill Watts, despised Vince for taking away their livelihoods. However, others just look at this as natural competition. America was founded on capitalism, and you should not get comfortable as a business person, because eventually someone is going to come and take your spot. If you don't adapt, you die. And by 1988, Vince McMahon fully decimated the territory system. Now the WWF was the biggest and best national wrestling promotion in the sport. This made it extremely easy for Vince to acquire the best talent throughout the 90s, as the World Wrestling Federation became home to rising stars like The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Matt and Jeff Hardy, Triple H, Mick Foley, Kane, The Rock. It seemed like Vince's only competition was with himself. They were selling out stadiums all over the country and broadcasting their events nationally every week. With that being said, the pressure to remain number one was at an all-time high. The matches needed to be bigger. The stakes needed to be higher. Vince wrote in more gimmick matches like ladder matches, table matches, or weirder matches like casket matches and dumpster matches, which meant you had to finish your opponent by putting them in a casket or a dumpster. They even had weird ones like the boiler room match or the hog pen match, which involved wrestling in mud with pigs. But there's no doubt that the Hell in a Cell match, which featured a 16-foot steel cage that was designed to have wrestlers thrown from the top or through the middle, was the most electrifying way to watch two people wrestle. It didn't matter that it was fake, because those guys were actually putting their body and their lives on the line for our entertainment and Vince's money. It was only a matter of time before one of those high-flying stunts ended in disaster, and in 1999 at Over the Limit, that's exactly what happened.
I need to order some food, but I'm in the middle of a game. Let's use Lifer, an app that integrates with the game that you're playing to
happened. Owen Hart, who was portraying a superhero called the Blue Blazer, fell from 90 feet in the air during a botched entrance stunt where he was flying over the crowd into the ring. After the fall, he suffered internal bleeding and passed away right there in the stadium. They even announced his death on the show, but Vince said the show must go on, and they proceeded to finish the event like this extreme tragedy did not happen.
I have the unfortunate responsibility to let everyone know that Owen Hart has died.
Vince doubled down on his decision to continue the show in an interview in 2001 with Playboy. If you could do it over, would you still hold the show that night? I just guessed that it was what Owen would want, so you'd do it again? I think so. Vince did not just portray a character of a ruthless businessman. That is who he was. But it proved to be the right path to success. 98 and 99 was their peak in terms of ratings and overall viewership, averaging multiple millions of viewers per episode. By the early 2000s, the WWF was generating $500 million in revenue each year. The high-intensity matches did not stop. However, the late 90s and early 2000s definitely saw a shift to more in-depth storytelling, which brings us to the infamous Attitude Era. This era is defined as the most ruthless, chaotic, over-the-top violent, and edgy time in WWE history. Scripts were changed the day before, the day of, or even in the ring. The wrestlers were rugged, rude, and in your face. And Vince found himself at the center of these stories because what is more anarchist than beefing with your own boss? Vince portrayed the character of a manic, power-hungry, yet also kind of pathetic CEO of the company. His rivalry with Steve Austin, which began in 97 after Austin hit his boss with a stunner.
Copyrighted content has been detected in your video.
Insane. Austin once held McMahon at gunpoint in the ring, although the gun was fake. He drove down the ring with a beer truck and sprayed Vince down with a fire hose of Coors. He even snuck into the hospital where Vince was injured and beat him up on the bed. This all culminated with Austin having a full-on match against Vince and his son Shane. This storyline set the tone that Vince being intertwined and involved with the lore was good for business. Then again, Stone Cold Steve Austin was such a superstar that he could beef with a mop and it would be entertaining. In the Attitude Era, you could no longer just be an athlete to be a WWE star. You needed to have personality, charisma, excellent speaking abilities to be able to sell a fight and keep these millions of fans engaged. And if you didn't, well, then the writers would come up with your storyline. And you won't believe some of these shocking and twisted narratives that Vince approved or came up with himself. In one of the most bizarre storylines, Kane announced that he was driving late at night with Katie Vick, a girl he loved since he was a teenager. He could not drive stick and they crashed, where she ultimately lost her life. Then Kane attends her open casket and for 6 minutes on live television he fondles her corpse, undresses her lifeless body and gets intimate with her before grabbing her internal organs and drinking the blood from them.
I'm gonna give you what you want. What I always wanted.
Or what about the time when Chris Jericho ambushed Chyna, tied her up in a dark room and began torturing her by beating her with a hammer, which actually broke her thumb so her painful screams were real. Vince was a big fan of humiliation, so he developed the Kiss My Ass Club, where a total of 6 men were forced to get on their knees and kiss his backside in front of millions of people. Most of the time this was to save their job, or just to embarrass them on a power trip. I should also note that Vince gave the world the satisfaction of being humiliated as he scripted himself getting his face shoved in Rikishi and the Big Show's backsides. Now most people like to default to all of this being entertainment. Like, sure, they pushed some boundaries, but it's all fake, right? But as time went on, and wrestlers spoke about their behind-the-scenes experiences, and Vince McMahon being accused of sexual assault and trafficking women, some of these storylines felt more like a glimpse into the reality of Vince McMahon's private life. Vince often used his daughter, Stephanie, for his dark storylines, probably because her loyalty convinced her to never say no to him. Like when she was going to get married in the ring to her fiancé Test, only for Triple H to interrupt the wedding with a video of himself drugging, kidnapping, marrying, and then sleeping with Stephanie while she was unconscious, which led to this infamous promo.
Come on out, you rapist!
But Stephanie was the subject of another kidnapping, this time by The Undertaker, who brought her out tied on a crucifix-like structure before one of his disciples began ordaining the marriage. In a promo that fans now believe is more of an admission of Stephanie's reality, she says that Vince trafficked his own daughter. Stephanie also admitted that he attempted to push an incest angle.
My dad did approach me about wanting to be the father of my baby in a storyline for TV, which again is only the second time I've ever actually said no to him for something he wanted to do. And that one was just a little too gross, actually. It's completely disgusting, and I don't find the entertainment value in it at all.
But that didn't stop her from kissing him on the mouth.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
But Vince just could not stop coming up with tropes that involve men preying on women. Vince came up with a storyline for Diamond Dallas Page to stalk The Undertaker's wife. DDP says to this day he regrets agreeing to be a part of this narrative. What I should have done was shook everyone's hands and said, I love the idea, but not for DDP. A few years later, this is what Vince said he was going to do to The Undertaker's wife and kids.
You don't realize what I'm gonna do, do you? Terrorists are gonna burn down The Undertaker's house. Yeah. His children are gonna be kidnapped. His wife, she's gonna be raped by a motorcycle gang right in front of The Undertaker. That's the plan I want implemented, damn it.
Finally, Vince was able to find a woman who could take his twisted ideas to a whole new level, as he scripted himself a mistress, Trish Stratus. Trish played a character of a woman who slept with the boss to advance her place in the company. At one point, they even wrote that Vince's actual wife, Linda, was so ill she needed 24-hour nursing care and was on copious amounts of drugs. He then brought her out in front of the entire world to make out with Trish right in front of his wife. Vince was brutal towards his wife. He even wrote in a scene where his kids repeatedly slapped their own mother to sell a promo. Whatever it takes to get ratings, right? And even though Trish was doing everything she could to advance her place in the company, it wouldn't be long before she was the one who would get humiliated, as he once even stripped her down in the ring and forced her to bark like a dog. He even tried to get her to join the Kiss My Ass Club.
Oh, I'm gonna unbuckle my belt.
But The Rock saved her. Vince's idea of easing up on women was by giving them a new match gimmick, the bra and panties match. This match gimmick was when the female wrestlers would only win the match if they stripped their opponent down to their bra and panties. They also had wet t-shirt contests and spanking matches. Vince was constantly writing storylines where women had to provide him with some sort of sexual favor.
How badly do you want to be a WWF superstar?
There are 15 new jobs added to Indeed every second.
Tori Wilson spoke recently about how she never wanted to play the sexy role and how she tried to convince writers to get her to do more stunts.
Fit Finley was amazing, putting matches together and just trying to make us look the best he could.
Yeah.
And I often would ask him if I could please get thrown into the stairs or like crazy, not crazy things, but like, you know, I just really wanted to get hurt.
Yeah, there's this like baseball slide into a chair, like it's
some
part of your Hall of Fame reel, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Stuff like that. So like I wanted to do more of that, but it was I was like kind of laughed at.
Ultimately, being constantly forced to do these raunchy matches and skits that only showcased her sexuality made her despise the business long after she retired.
But there's also something about wrestling that has always felt super dark to me, and like I'm just really sensitive to it. So like I say no to a lot of signings because I feel like that darkness, and it doesn't feel good. It's taken a long time. I didn't watch wrestling. I didn't want anything to do with wrestling for many years after I left. Mostly because I just had like a certain amount of like PTSD from like being so vulnerable out there and feeling like I was put in this kind of like raunchy role that wasn't me.
So while most people thought that these raunchy matches, risque promos, and twisted narratives were just Vince McMahon going over the top to boost ratings, we found out 2 decades later that it was even darker behind the scenes. It was so bad for Ashley Massaro that it ended her life. Massaro was first introduced to the WWE in 2005 when she met a casting director during a swimsuit pageant searching for contestants for the upcoming 2005 Raw Diva Search competition. She decided that this was the right decision to finally shoot for her dream job as a WWE wrestler. Upon winning, she received $250,000 and a 1-year contract with the WWE. Ashley faced significant challenges during her early WWE career. August 22nd, 2005, she was attacked backstage by fellow divas Candice Michelle and Tori Wilson, leaving her with a back injury. Despite this, she recovered and won the first ever 3-on-2 bra and panties match. After this, she continued to appear in the promotion, but later suffered a severe leg injury on February 20th during a women's battle royale against Mickie James. The injury included a spinal fracture, a severed nerve, and multiple broken bones, requiring a metal plate and screws be put in during surgery. After recovering, she returned until 2008, where she asked to be released from her contract due to her daughter having medical problems. troops. For years, Ashley would be relatively out of the spotlight until 2016 when she would join a class action lawsuit against the WWE, alleging Vince was a part of one of the most horrifying crime cover-ups in history. Ashley Massaro was a strong supporter of the US military and was enthusiastic about opportunities to meet and help the troops. So in 2006, Ashley was excited to be selected to go to Kuwait for their annual Tribute to the Troops tour. However, the tour started off with issues. In Saudi Arabia, Massaro experienced harsh treatment from several men because of cultural reasons which made her uncomfortable. And after arriving in Kuwait, she began suffering from menstrual cramps and was taken to a military base for dehydration treatment. At the base, she was given an IV, and later, a man wearing an orange t-shirt and cargo shorts, claiming to be a US Army doctor, injected her with a substance that made her body paralyzed while still being conscious. He then moved her to a non-treatment room where the man violently R-worded and sodomized her while a woman guarded the door. After returning to the US, WWE's Dr. Rios called a meeting with Ashley Massaro to discuss the incident. She was unsure how he knew about it, but suspected it might have been someone on the tour who reported it. She agreed to tell him what happened as long as Rios kept it confidential. However, Dr. Rios told Vince McMahon, who then brought in executives for a meeting where Massaro was asked to detail what happened in Kuwait. She said, "Vince did at least apologize for what I went through, but then stressed that if I disclosed this incident, it would ruin the relationship between the WWE and the US military. He told me to not let one bad experience ruin the good work they were doing. His lack of sensitivity in referring to my ordeal as one bad experience left me speechless." In a filing the next month, WWE called the claim a stale and baseless allegation and denied Massaro had ever reported a sexual assault to anyone affiliated with WWE, saying she had been heard telling others that the doctor had done an inappropriate pelvic exam before a judge dismissed the case in 2018. Less than a year later, Ashley wrote letters back to all of her fans that were sharing love and support for her bravery. Then the next day, Ashley tragically passed away on May 16, 2019. She was 39 years old and is survived by her daughter. An important statement that Ashley made during this lawsuit was never released to the public until 2024 to back up Vince's new allegations by Janelle Grant, which we'll get to in a second. Ashley's statement said the following: "During my time with the WWE, I had observed Vince McMahon making out with other divas in the locker room, but he never paid any attention to me, and I assumed I was not his type. This changed after my Playboy cover was released. I was fortunate enough to be allowed to fly on the company jet and stay at the same hotels as the executives for a period of time. On one of these occasions, Vince was attempting to get me alone with him in his hotel room late at night, and I felt extraordinarily uncomfortable. He began calling the hotel room phone and my cell phone nonstop. I called Kevin Dunn, a producer, to explain the situation, and he said I should tell Vince I was not feeling well and would see him on TV the next day, so I did. Immediately after that night, Vince started writing my promos for me. Vince does not write promos for female wrestlers. That is the job of the creative department, and he certainly wouldn't have, under any normal circumstances, written a promo for me, but he did, and the promos were written with a clear intention of ruining my career. In addition, after that night, each time I walked by him, he would make vulgar sexual
Hey, Jake.
comments that were clearly designed to make me uncomfortable.
Hi.
These claims can
Jake,
be backed up
I
by
was on
former
YouTube and I
boyfriend
saw you
and
streaming on
wrestler
YouTube.
Paul London, who said that
No one
Vince
can
was
hear you
constantly
on
putting
your
predatory
YouTube stream.
pressure on her.
Many times when
No.
she would reply to me because
Yeah,
Vince
I cannot
was
hear
propositioning
anything
her
from
to
your YouTube.
fly on the jet with him.
I'm not talking.
Kevin Dunn,
No, but you're putting on a video, right?
would be
Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot hear that video too. Cannot.
Okay. How can I, fish?
I'm not gonna lie, Jake. You're multi-streaming. I have no idea. Oh, oh wait, never mind. People from your chat is saying that they can hear it. I think my iPad is connected to my AirPods. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jake.
Okay.
All right, I will let you continue with your stream, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you will be participating today, right?
Yeah.
or that he
All right, I will hit you up later,
every
okay?
now and then she was at the,
All right,
would always
bye-bye.
call the divas at the TV hotel or whatever.
What if you could get paid to learn how to code? This is Caleb. Caleb was once a burnt out English teacher.
He'd be knocking on her door and, trying to get her to answer. And it's just like, I'm shocked this Vince stuff is just now coming out.
The walls were slowly closing in on Vince McMahon. He was able to escape Ashley Massaro's horrible allegations, but it was only a matter of time before his evil past would catch up to him. In 2022, Vince McMahon agreed to pay more than $12 million to 4 women who were affiliated with the WWE over the course of 16 years. It's alleged that the women also signed agreements which prohibited them from discussing their relationships with McMahon. The settlements include a $7.5 million pact with a former wrestler who alleged that Vince McMahon coerced her into giving him oral sex and then demoted her, and ultimately declined to renew her contract in 2005 after she resisted further sexual encounters. This controversy was enough to make Vince McMahon finally step down as CEO of the company. But in January of 2024, Vince was slapped with another lawsuit, this time jam-packed full of evidence that would make the whole world understand who he truly is. Janelle Grant, former WWE employee, accused Vince McMahon of abuse, sexual exploitation, and humiliation during his tenure as chief executive. Grant alleged that McMahon lured her with promises of career advancement but then exploited and trafficked her to other men within the company. Grant first met McMahon in March of 2019 through a manager in her apartment building, where McMahon also lived. She was seeking employment after her parents' deaths. McMahon promised her a job at WWE and showered her with gifts, but the meetings turned inappropriate when one time McMahon approached her in his underwear and pressured her into sexual situations. As such, when McMahon pushed Miss Grant for a physical relationship in return for long-promised employment at WWE, she felt trapped in an impossible situation, submitting to McMahon's sexual demands or facing ruin. Miss Grant feared she had everything to lose and faced negative consequences no matter what happened. In June of 2019, Grant began working as an administrator coordinator in WWE's legal department. After giving her a job, Vince McMahon's sexual demands increased, and he began sharing explicit photos and videos of her with other WWE employees and executives. Despite Miss Grant's expressions of unhappiness and attempts to end the sexual relationship, she came to understand that McMahon expected the physical relationship to continue as a part of her employment. In March of 2020, McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs and videos of Miss Grant, including pornographic content he recorded with other men both inside and outside the company. You can even see these text messages of him admitting to doing so. She even tried to express that she did not want an associate named Johnny, aka John Laurinaitis, receiving pictures of her. The lawsuit then goes on to describe not one or few, but countless extremely detailed situations in which Vince used his power to break her down, exploit her sexually, demand and force her to give herself to him and his associates, whether it was by serving executives during work hours in offices or serving WWE superstars to keep them satisfied and prevent them from leaving the company. Control that can only be described as sexual slavery. If you read this text message, you can see an example of him trying to coordinate a schedule for his associates to take turns with this woman, only for her to respond that she does not want to and for him to keep begging. Multiple other text messages from Vince were shown in the lawsuit where he deeply explains his desire to traffic her to men throughout the industry. As one example of McMahon's extreme depravity, on May 9th, 2020, he defecated on Miss Grant during a threesome, and then commanded her to continue pleasuring his friend with feces in her hair and running down her back. McMahon and his friend actively resumed the threesome, which lasted over an hour and a half, while Miss Grant remained covered in McMahon's filth. Naturally, when people hear about allegations like this, they tend to consider the alternative. Maybe she wanted this. Maybe she liked this. Maybe she is just using him for a payday after consenting to this depraved lifestyle. And maybe in the beginning she did consent to these weird kinks. But it's very easy to see how these things can get out of control very quickly. A clear line between fantasy and reality needs to be drawn, and evidently that wasn't the case. Now, people will also wonder, how did this get so bad? Well, a lot of people downplay the impact of psychological manipulation and how people can lose themselves, go numb, and just start obliging to the demands of their abuser. The lawsuit also quotes Vince texting her saying, "I want to drive you lower and lower, so low that you beg me to sell you." In early 2022, Vince said that his wife Linda found out about he and Janelle's relationship and threatened a divorce, so he stopped all communication with her to save his marriage and avoid a public fallout. He demanded that she sign a non-disclosure agreement in which McMahon agreed to pay her $3 million to keep their relationship confidential. However, after the anonymous tip in 2022 that led to a board investigation and a multi-million-dollar payout to a few women, Vince stopped paying Janelle after the initial $1 million installment. Vince has vehemently denied any wrongdoing. He also put out a statement saying he and Janelle had a consensual relationship that lasted a little less than 3 years and ended in early 2022. He also added that Grant texted him explicit images of herself and messages expressing love for him, along with her wanting clothes and other gifts. We remain confident the evidence will prove Miss Grant's allegations are false and her complaint is nothing more than a fabricated, vindictive narrative from a disgruntled former girlfriend. But in July of 2023, federal prosecutors executed a search warrant for McMahon's phone and served him with a grand jury subpoena. And it seems like since then, which has now been a year, the feds have been building a case against him. Just a month ago, they asked Janelle if she would agree to essentially put her case on hold while they investigate him further. She agreed. So it seems like any day now the feds could present the world with years worth of evidence proving him to be the exact same depraved, disgusting, abusive, power-absorbed freak he conveyed himself to be on television for the past 35 years.